Hey guys, welcome to the Soul on Fire show. I am so happy that you're here. Thank you for those of you that are on the live. Thank you that those that are there on the replay. We have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful show for you today. We're going deep into your emotional intelligence and spiritual maturity and your emotional body today. Guys, we are so super, super excited because we have such an amazing journey with a spiritual warrior today. He is going to blow it up today. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee or just even a drink because you guys are going to be blown out of the water by what you see today. So our friend Sifu Love is here to join us. He is incredible. He is a martial arts expert and he merges martial arts with emotional intelligence and he gets you to the greatest version of yourself. Guys, we are going to tap into your emotional body, connect your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, and your energy fields. We're going to learn about spiritual maturity. We're going to learn about living in abundance, living your truth. We're going to learn about actually tapping into a different version of you that never even existed before. It actually already exists. We're just going to tap you into that version. Before, again, thank you guys for being on the Soul on Fire show. I love you so, so much. My name is Noelle Agape. I am a leading expert in health, wellness, and consciousness, and we go deep, deep, deep on the show into the quantum field, and we take a look at your mind-body connection, and we see how you are living your best life, guys. And we travel the world, and we show you different places, different versions of you through travel, through play, through the quantum. And so, again, thank you for being here. I'm super, super excited. Again, Sifu Love, we just met about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And I knew we were in this business platform and I just knew. I felt his energy through the entire virtual stage and it was incredible and wonderful. You guys are going to be, you're in for such a treat. He's going to tell you about and teach you about how to actually tap into a greater version of yourself. He teaches his clients through movement and through martial arts, as well as understanding the control of your body and the manipulation of your mind and how to get to a greater version of yourself. He works with energy. He works with the body. He is so beautiful and so wonderful. He is a master in his craft, and you guys are in for such a great treat. I'm going to bring him on now. Hey, Sifu, how are you?
Hi, that was such a lovely introduction. Thank you. Oof, I'm flattered.
So great to have you. So why don't you tell us what you actually do? I mean, your bio is so it's profound, right? I know you studied and you've trained athletes. You've studied and did you study at NYU? Was it or where was it?
Columbia.
No,
yeah,
okay. My daughter wants to go to Columbia. So I know you're based in New York, but you just got back from San Diego or California. So tell us about you and tell us what you do because it's so interesting. You take martial arts and you have all of your degrees in counseling and psychology, and you've merged the two to allow people to get to the greatest versions of themselves. So tell us a little bit about you. That's amazing.
Sure. So I'm Sifu Love. I go by the Soul Warrior, and that's because I train people on how to heal themselves by connecting to their soul. And it's a really powerful thing to be able to do. It all started when I was maybe about like 10 or 11. I got a Meditation for Dummies book. You know, way back then, everything was for dummies. So I had a Meditation for Dummies book. And I learned how to meditate. I learned the basics of what it meant to be still and to calm the mind. And that was really helpful for me at that particular point. And you know, anything that you do for a while, there's a certain point where you kind of reach the maximum growth in it. So I meditated for a while in seated meditation, but I was like, I need movement. My body wants to get involved in all of these changes that are happening in my mind. So my mom encouraged me to do some sort of martial arts practice because she wanted me to learn how to protect myself. So I was like, okay, well, I've seen all these like kung fu movies and I see them doing these magical things. And I'm like, well, I'm a magical being too. So let me just do kung fu. Like, why not? So I started doing kung fu, and the training itself was very, it was fun and it was fluid, but it didn't have that magic that I knew instinctively that kung fu had. It was all about punches. And I remember there was one point where my teacher told me my punches weren't strong enough. He was like, oh, just imagine being angry and like punch with anger. And I did that, and I was like, this doesn't feel good to my soul. You know, I've done so much meditation at this point that I know what feels good deep down. And when he told me to punch with anger, I'm like, that feels unhealthy. So I didn't listen to him. I tried different things. I'm like, well, what else can I bring forth to make my punches stronger? And I thought of all these emotions, like, what does it feel like to punch with happiness? What does it feel like to punch with expression or openness? And ultimately, I realized that punches are strongest when you punch with desire. And then I started to feel, what is it like to feel desire rise up within my body and emit outwards? And doing that allowed me to become a lot more open-hearted, a lot more generous, and really be in touch with my own desires. And that's what led me into my my schooling. So I got my undergrad in linguistics, and then I moved to China, trained with martial artists all throughout the country, and they were so eager to work with me because I'm a foreigner. I don't look like them, and so it's very exciting for them to be able to talk to me because I speak fluent Chinese. And they were just sharing all of their information and wisdom with me, and I heard all these stories about things that had happened to them and why martial arts saved their lives. And it helped me see that this practice is not just a physical practice that works the body. It does have that mind, that spirituality aspect to it. And once I realized that, I knew it. I was like, yes, this is what I want to focus on. So I left China, came to New York, and I did my master's program in spiritual psychology. And that program really showed me what is spirituality, what are the different ways we tap into the soul, what are the ways we can guide other people to go deeper within themselves. And I was like, this is great. I'm going to take all of this, copy and paste it into martial arts. And that's what I've done. And I've created this spiritual martial arts system with the help of one of my very, very good teachers in New Mexico.
I love that so much. Wow. That is so beautiful. And on the show, we merge science and spirituality. And that's exactly what it is, right? You're taking science and you're taking spirituality and you're merging the two. So,
Exactly.
oh my gosh, our viewers are going to love you so much because of that. So let's talk about desire, because that's a huge thing, right? So many people talk about manifestation and the manifestation process. And I teach the manifestation process as well as you do. But let's talk about actually manifesting from your soul, because it's a very different vibration than manifesting from your ego, right? And so first, let's talk about your ego and your soul and the difference and how it pulls you in different directions, because that is so important to understand, is that we have really, and I did a post today about an alter ego, right? And so we have different versions of us within us. So maybe talk about that, because it's so important for our viewers to understand the difference between working in the ego and working from the soul level, right?
Yeah. And that's a very good question. And I want to highlight something, because it really, it makes me uncomfortable when people talk about killing the ego or destroying the ego. And that's not the goal here. Exactly. We work with it. The ego is there to guide us so we know where to go. If we didn't have our ego, we'd just be wandering off of the path and just going in so many different directions, right? So the ego kind of helps guide us. But at the same time, the ego is not, it's not the totality of who we are. There's this soul, there's this feeling, there's these emotions, there's something deeper down, there's this inner life force that comes up when you do something that's truly exciting, something that brings you extreme joy. And you see it in people's faces when someone's like hard at work in something they love, their face beams with this joy and excitement. Noelle, you're here in this show and you beam excitement when you do this because you clearly love this, right? And so right. And what that is the life force energy is coming up and you're seeing it in the person's expression. And so when I teach people about the ego and the soul, one of the things that I ask is the ego is more of like a thinking thing. It's very like mental sort of guiding. And the soul is more the feeling, the intuition. It's something that you can't really quantify. I mean, in terms of science, there's really no way to scientifically say what a soul is or give some quantifiable measures as to like what soul energy is. But we all feel it. We all have that inner feeling within us, this really strong desire that's pushing us towards something. And there's work to be done in order to get there. We don't just wake up and know, like, this is what I desire. I mean, that would be beautiful. We just woke up like, oh, I know everything I desire. The world is all beautiful. I know exactly what it is that I'm meant to do. But the fact of the matter is we don't have that direct connection. And so one of the things that I teach people is about this idea of conditioning and how the outer world is going to put ideas onto you. And we need to do the work to identify what the outer world is telling us, so then we can push that away and tune into what our inner world is trying to feed us from within. So I think that's one of the really important distinctions to make around ego and soul, is that ego is more mind oriented, let's say, and soul is something that's more feeling, more emotion, more it's more spiritual. That's the best way to put it. And it's really hard to describe what the soul is, but we all have it and we all know it. We all have that experience of it.
I love that so much. And you said so many gold pieces in there. So let's talk about moving from whatever, and I teach this all the time, and so do you. Your external reality is really nothing that, other than what's going on internally. So let's talk about the going through the ego and working with the ego in the darkness, like the fear, the anger, the hurt, the sadness, the guilt and shame that come up, or I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, right? And so those are your internal battles that you have, but it's not even really a battle. Like you said, if you listen to your life, we have this internal guidance system. Hey, Sifu, go this way. It's gonna, hey,
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I promise you, if you listen, go this way. Oh, she's not listening. Okay, he's not listening. Okay, we're just gonna pull the rug out from underneath there, right? So let's talk about working with, I say all the time, dancing with the universe, right? And so that's a vibration. And Esther Hicks puts this perfectly, is like, it's alignment. And when you're in alignment with your soul, not your ego, that's when you dance with the universe, right? So let's talk about that and go deeper into that, because it's super important for people to understand.
Yeah. And, it's something that for me, I find it really important to teach that all of our emotions are there and they're an experience. Our emotions don't define us, but they're part of our experience. So every time we push down an emotion, we're pushing away a part of our experience. And then I tell people, I invite them, what is it like to allow the emotion to come up, feel it, and see what is the emotion trying to tell you? How is the emotion trying to re-guide your ego? Because your ego is saying, I want to do this thing. But then this emotion of anger or frustration or sadness is coming up. And if you listen to that emotion, the ego will start to, you listen to the emotion, you let it fill you, the ego will readjust itself and say, okay, well, instead of doing this, we'll do this. So there's something to say about honoring all of the emotions that we have, the full experience, the full range of emotions. And that's one of the things that taps us into the soul and moves us away from this more ego-centered mind. And I think that's really important. And a lot of people, unfortunately, always talk about repressing emotions or putting them away, or especially fear. People say fear is such a bad thing. And I'm like, it's not a bad thing. It's something we need to be in relationship with. And I think like the more we have that dialogue with our emotions, we're having a dialogue with our inner self. And I find the soul to be very interesting, because the more that I connect with my soul, the more it wants to communicate with me. The more work I put in to understand it, the more it wants to feed me information. And that's why I train people to be warriors of the soul, because we need to fight in some way to get closer to our soul. There's so much, I keep talking about culture and noise, but there's so much that is being fed into us through advertisements, through the media, through TV shows and movies, and even like friends and family. There's so much information that we're getting. And if we know how to push that away and go deeper into what we know to be our own unique vibrational experience and emotion, we tap into the soul and we push away, or we guide the ego so it's more in aligned with the soul.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that so much. And so what would be some things that you said witness, right? That's a big word. I love that. And so witnessing your life and understanding that life is teaching you and working with you, not to you, right? That things are not happening to you. They're happening for you. And I say all the time, like, I have crazy relationships with all of my alter egos, right? And I'm like, hey, fear. Okay, we're going to go on a journey right now. And I'll jump off a cliff just as on purpose, right? And so what are some tangible things that people can do to manage their emotions and witness? I love that word that you said, witness. And so through the emotional body, feeling their way through life. You and I feel your way through life, right? We truly do. And then that's why we are so deeply connected to our soul and our soul's purpose. And we're so driven by service, is because we are so in alignment with that. But how, when someone's just starting off of understanding their emotions and their emotional body, understanding the kinesiology between the body and the brain, and understanding the next level of energy, and then their soul's journey, those are such big topics. What could you say to those?
Yeah, those are major buckets, and I can spend so long going into all of them. For me, it all started with using my imagination. And whenever there's an emotion that came up, I imagined, okay, this emotion is sitting in front of me. Let me literally talk to it. So I would literally speak into this open space, which is my, let's say, anger for today, and see how the anger was responding back to me. And that was like really, really helpful, because I mean, when you work in the imagination, whatever comes up, you don't judge it. Right. So, you might say something really weird and like that's strange, but I'm going to keep on going. And, so it's really helpful to have that dialogue because you never know what can come up. You really never know what can come up, especially when you're working in the imagination. And everything that comes up is helpful in some way. It's useful because it's part of you. It's not what other people are telling you. It's what you from deep within are feeding up and out of your own mouth. So I always tell people to use their imagination and literally imagine the emotion there and see the dialogue that you can have. And you can also, one of the things I had one of my students do was like create this sort of dating profile with their emotion. And so she was working with fear in particular. And I was like, okay, so this is fear. Find a picture for fear. What picture does fear look like for you? So she found a picture. And then I was like, okay, so let's talk about the history of fear. Where's your fear been? What is your fear like to do? And that got her to think about all the past moments that fear was in her life, that fear sort of like took over in some instance. And so there's these different activities that you can do between just imagining the emotion, dialoguing with it, going back into the history and trying to trace the history of the emotion. Because all of that, again, you're just getting in better communication and you're relating back to it.
So good. Oh my goodness. I could talk to you all day about this. So the soul's journey is such a beautiful gift. And so you call yourself a soul warrior, right? And so let's talk about being a spiritual warrior and what that looks like. Being a soul warrior, spiritual warrior, going through the dark night of the soul. Like there are so many moments where your pain is there it truly is there on purpose, right? And it is showing you a greater version of you, and it's allowing yourself to, like, literally, we are here to experience and expand. And our soul's journey is for those two purposes. And your experience will not be good if you're not expanding, right? So talk about being a spiritual warrior and the difference between spiritual maturity and emotional intelligence, where emotional intelligence is we understand and we're witnessing what's going on. But spiritual maturity is truly living in from your soul, like you and I do, right? There's a very big difference of understanding your emotions, but living it, right?
Yes. So one of the things I can say about that is it's a matter of, so there's one thing to understand your emotions, and there's another thing to embody the emotions, allow the emotions to come up and allow them to become you and go about in the world and act through that emotion. I think that is warriorship, is allowing my happiness, allowing my grief to literally be painted all over my face, all over my body, and go out into the world and live the life that I know I'm meant to do. So there's one thing about just being in touch with the emotions, but then embodying it and allowing the emotions to become you. And that, I think, is a really powerful thing. And so when you go out into the world, there's this whole thing around authenticity that is super important. And the only way I think you can be authentic is if you're aware of your emotions and you embody them and you go out into the world and you're unashamed about them. So getting to a level where you're not ashamed of your emotions and you can go out and express them. Of course, not express them in a way that's violent toward other people, but find ways that are healthy to express your emotions and become your emotions. Because everyone has their own emotions and everyone has their different cycles of their emotions. And so if we're all operating with the truth of who we are in the moment, then it becomes an interesting dance where you don't know what's going to happen when you're relating to another person. But what you know is there's this really authentic, true connection that's happening. And so for me, the idea of me being a soul warrior is just me being constantly vigilant about what it is my soul is trying to tell me, and not to go against that, because it's very easy to go against that. Like I have cravings and impulses and all of that stuff, and those things are actually, I would say, put onto me based off of like my own stress or my own trauma around needing to feel valuable or important or all of these things. And instead of going to those vices, what I do is I go deep within and I listen and ask my soul, what do you need right now? And for me, honestly, what my soul tells me is like, you need space. You need to be quiet in a room all by yourself. And I'm like, perfect. I will do that, and that's exactly what I need. And when I do that, that's warriorship, because we live in a culture that's so productivity oriented, where you must do this. And the second that you say, I'm not going to do this because I need to tune into myself, I need to listen to what my soul is trying to do, that's warriorship, because the world is pulling you away from the soul. And so when you work to align yourself so closely with the soul, it's going against that. And you then become a warrior.
Oof, wow. That was so amazing. Guys, you know, those of you that are watching on the live, you could go back and watch it on the replay, but that was so beautiful. I literally have chills all over my body.
I do too.
So we are going to take a quick break. Right now is the perfect time to take a quick break, but I want to come back and I want to go deeper into that. I want to go into the soul's journey of moving to service, right? Because that is the highest level of your soul, is when you're in true service, but you can't be in service unless your cup is filled, right?
Yeah.
And so thank you guys. Thank you so much for that, because that was such a beautiful, like, Sifu, that, like, I literally had chills all over my body, and you're just blowing up the station right now. We're going to take a quick break, guys, but our show today is sponsored by my company, Noelle Agape Global, and at Noelle Agape Global, we want to get you to the highest version of yourself. It's all things health, wellness, and consciousness. And we know that you are more powerful than you will ever know. We will be right back, guys. Stay tuned, because we have so much more consciousness to talk about. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for being on the Soul on Fire show. Welcome back. Today we are with magical, you are so magical, Sifu Love. He is talking about consciousness and being a soul warrior. He's talking about, he truly takes martial arts and the discipline of martial arts and brings psychology into it. It is this amazing, amazing things of merging science and spirituality in such a beautiful, beautiful way. Sifu, we talked about your soul's journey, and we talked about working with the ego and understanding your emotional body. Let's talk now about when your emotional body is not in alignment with your highest self, right? And that's super important, because if your cup is not full and you're not in alignment, you can't be of service, right? And so the highest level of being a soul warrior is to be here to expand, and, you know, to live in the highest level is service and consciousness, right? So go from that space of when the people that are not they need to dial themselves in and get in alignment with themselves. How important is that, first and foremost? And secondly, how do you get from point A to point B? And how do you get to be living your dream and living from your soul like we do?
Yeah, beautiful question. And it's extremely important. It's so important. And one of the ways that we can tune into ourselves, I mean, there's so many different ways between, you know, the most common way people think of, like, is journaling and, like, sensing what's within. I just think there's a lot of inner work that we need to do to really understand what's going on and why. It's always, for me, asking that question of why and what's behind this. So sometimes I'm in a conversation and all of a sudden I feel really irritated, and I'm like, okay, what's behind this? And every time I ask that question, something comes up, and that something becomes information that then I can use to guide myself and understand what exactly is going on. The other thing that I think is really important is we tune into our own sensitivities. A lot of the times our culture and society will say, you're too sensitive, you know, all this sort of thing. Have thick skin. I have no patience for that idea of thick skin anymore, because it's really unhealthy. You know, we're here as human beings, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're here to experience what it's like to be human. We need to feel things. We need to be full of our own senses. We need to have that sensitivity, because it helps us understand what's happening in the world and how the world is impacting ourselves. So the martial arts training that I do is really focused on helping you develop sensitivity and winning back sensitivity as a superpower, because the more sensitive you are, the more you're able to perceive what's going on and then understand how what's going on is impacting you. So training the sensitivity, tuning in, doing your inner work. And part of the inner work for me has been really understanding my own traumas and how my traumas have created a cycle of actions, a cycle of habitual actions that I'm unaware of. And that was really important, because I got to see how when I'm triggered or when something happens, I go about the same behavior. I lash out, or I speak to someone a specific way, or I shut down. I have like a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And for me, being able to realize that I'm in that response, it was key, because then I can pull myself out of that response. And that's where the martial arts comes in, because it helps me not only be sensitive to when I'm having a moment of disruption, of disturbance, of being misguided or misled, or being lost. I know the second that I feel lost, and then I have a practice to bring me back into alignment. I have a practice that it doesn't demonize or push away the fact that I'm lost. It's that I realize that I'm lost, and I'm searching while in this sort of field of being lostness, and I bring in a new understanding, a new evaluation, a new meaning into my life. And that's what's been really helpful for me and my many students that I've worked with, is really tuning into all of the things that they've been through, and developing another level of sensitivity that then allows them to navigate life in the most authentic way.
Wow. Wow, you're just blowing my mind. Every question is so on point, guys. Again, this is a show to rewatch and rewind for sure, for sure. And please share this out, because everyone needs to hear this information. So let's talk about sensitivity, because you and I, we're both clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairmedium. We hear, feel, see everything, right? And so we're super tapped in to not only our emotions, but our energetic fields as well, right? And so let's talk about sensitivity and how people can sometimes misunderstand sensitivity for anxiety or depression or things like that, or other people's energy that actually isn't not even yours, right? Let's talk about that, because that's tremendous, especially for empaths, and I'm sure many empaths are watching the show, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's all about energy and frequency, and I find empaths are probably really drawn to the show because of the frequency the show gives off. One of the greatest ways that I understand anxiety is when you feel so distant from yourself, is when you feel so lost and so distant from yourself. And instead of like having that thick skin and being sort of tough and trying to tough it out, like if, imagine you feel really, really lost and you act really, really tough. That's not going to invite you to understand what's happening with you anymore. You don't get a sense of what's happening in life. Instead, when you're really, really lost and you have that sense of anxiety and you feel disconnected with yourself, and you get sensitive and you tune into your senses, you tune into how something feels, not just like physically, but also in the more spiritual or in the psychic way, in terms of the clairvoyances, then you have a really deep sense of not just yourself, but the world around you. And that gives you more guidance. It gives you more understanding of who you are and what it is that you're meant to do. For me, when I unlocked my clairaudience, the ability to hear things very clearly at a very young age. And then I developed my clairvoyance a couple of years after that. And there was a complete point where I just felt completely lost. I was like, what am I doing? And this is when I was like maybe in elementary school. This is like elementary school. I was like, what is happening to me? Why are people treating me this way? Why am I being bullied? Oh my God, this is so horrible. And I just felt really lost, and I felt anxious, and I felt really uncomfortable in my own body and in everything. And it was my clairvoyance, the fact that I can not just see what was there, but I can perceive something that's not necessarily there. I was able to heighten that sensitivity. And it was because of that sensitivity that I was able to see the people that were bullying me. They weren't bullying me because they hated me. They were bullying me because there was something going on with them. I could literally see that this dirty, kind of dingy aura around them. And I would see that, and all I could feel was compassion. I was like, wow, there's something really, and I was young, so I didn't really have the language or the complete intellectual understanding that I do now. But back then I would see that, and I'm like, there's something going on there, and I can just feel compassion, and I hope that gets better and that clears up. And so that helped me understand that what's happening to me, the way people are treating me or interacting with me, a lot of times has nothing to do with me, but has something to do with them. And when I realized that helped me tune even more into myself, and it really helped to ease a lot of the anxiety that I've been feeling.
I love that so much. And we will get some takeaways in just a minute of how to calm yourself down and breathing and on. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about where when other people are, you and I talked about this on the phone the other day when we were talking about putting people on pause. And it's not that we're not being empathetic, we're not compassionate. It's just that we have enough boundaries within our energetic fields that we say, no, thank you. I love you, but no, thank you. And and no thank you is okay. And so let's talk about that and having boundaries, one, energetically, and two, emotionally, because that's such a huge component for people that truly don't understand when they are in their power. Boundaries keep them in their power. It's not keeping them safe. It's allowing them to rise because they're choosing a better option for themselves, right?
Yes, that's a beautiful way to put it. And in my life, I've traveled a lot and I've met a lot of people. And that's been very beneficial because when I meet people want to learn certain things, and I'm happy to share my knowledge and share energy with them. But there comes a point where I'm like, I need to stop. And I know when that point is, and I need a break. I need to reset. I'm like, no, hard block, like literally hard block. I love you. I appreciate you. But right now I need to tune back into myself. And to say that sort of thing, to take a stand for your own energetic needs, what that does is it's telling your soul, like, hi, I'm listening to you. I'm there. I'm ready to feed you and support you. And the soul sees that and it's like, oh, okay, so you're ready to listen. And then you get more information from your soul and you have a deeper connection. So I find that the more that I express my boundaries, the more faith my soul has in me. And the more faith my soul has in me, the more I feel into my purpose. I feel into what I'm meant to do with my life. And so boundaries are really, really important. And there's this really strange misconception. I say strange, but I get it. There's so much twisting that culture has done to keep us out of our power, to keep us weak, to keep us disconnected, to keep us disconnected from ourselves. So I get it, but it's really unfortunate. But boundaries are one of the most important things you can do, because you can't expand unless you have a boundary. If you have no boundaries and you try to expand, you'll sort of flop and you'll go anywhere. And one of the things that I teach, one of the ways that I teach this is I talk about a plant. So a plant is at first in the small pot, this pot, right? And this pot is a boundary for the plant to grow. And when the plant's outgrown that boundary, it goes into another pot and another pot and another pot, but it stays in a pot. If the plant didn't have the pot, the roots would just sort of keep on going and it would sort of lose itself and it would die. So the plant needs some sort of container or structure. And as it grows and expands, that container and structure grows. And, we as human beings, we're very similar to plants in that we are energy and we're growing and we exist and we're part of nature. So if nature needs some sort of boundary to grow, why is it that we all of a sudden don't need boundaries to grow? Like that to me doesn't make sense. You see it in all examples of nature, not just with plants. You see it with different types of birds or different, like for some reason the leopard's coming to mind, but every single animal has a way of building a boundary and a barrier. And it's not because they hate other animals, it's because they know what they can tolerate. And they're very comfortable saying, no, this is my barrier, do not cross this. And it's not a matter of hatred. It's not that I hate you and that's why I'm putting up a boundary. It's because I love myself and I'm putting up the boundary because of that.
That is so powerful. So let's talk about one, self-love, because you said that, and two, because of what people that have such firm boundaries from their childhood and something happened to them that they don't allow in. So that's the other end, the other extreme of it, right? And so finding the balance between having boundaries and walls, and also enough self-love to understand the difference.
Yeah, that's a good question and a good way to put it. The difference between boundary and walls. I find that a boundary is something that can sense energy and can potentially take in energy, but then has the ability to push it out and push it back. Just like a block. And I did this because I'm a martial artist and I think of everything in terms of martial arts. Yeah, so like exactly, this is what a block is. A block is not like this. If it's a strong block and something comes in, the block will like break and then you'll hurt yourself. But a block is something that takes energy, receives it, and then pushes it back if need be. That's what a block actually is. And that's what our barriers or our boundaries are. They're energetic mechanisms to sense what is going on. Feel, is this aligned with me? Yes, absorb. No, push back. But if you have a wall, if you have a wall, this like strong structure around you, and energy is coming, whether it be something bad or something good. Maybe there's the energy of money, because money's energy. The energy of money is trying to come to you, but you have a wall. You're not going to be able to sense it, and it's going to bounce off and go away. So there's a need for us to have boundaries and a need for us to have boundaries and to develop that sensitivity, because it's that combination of the two that lets us know what energy that's coming in that's aligned with us and what's not aligned with us. And what you said about people who have been through very difficult moments in their life, it's very true, and it's very hard. It's hard initially to talk about boundaries because there's this need for safety that they've lost, that's been violated for them. And that's when we go back and we go back to do that deeper inner work of understanding, like, where does that lack of safety come from? What are some of the ways that we can work through that? What are some of the ways that you can go into life and feel safe? And it's sort of like each time you go into life and you feel safe, it's like a little bit of a win. So you feel like a little bit of a win, and it adds like a penny to your safety jar. And when that jar gets full enough to a certain extent, then we talk about boundaries, and then we talk about the difference between boundaries and walls. So it is important to honor that someone who's been through deep level trauma needs to do some serious work to tune into themselves. And once they've reached a certain point, they can develop that sensitivity and then build the boundaries instead of the walls.
Wow. So good, guys. Oh my goodness. That was so amazing. So give us some key takeaways of what people, maybe breathing techniques or movement techniques, of what people can do when they're in a place of anxiety, or they're in a place of fear, or they're in a place of, they're just not in a higher vibration, they're in a lower vibration. And to raise their vibration, how do we do that?
Yeah. So, in terms of breathing, everyone talks about the diaphragmatic breath, and that's absolutely beautiful. That taking a deep breath, deep belly breath, is really, really helpful for allowing, for accessing the vagus nerve, and then allowing the body to be calm. But beyond that, beyond just taking deep belly breaths, there's a way that we can imagine our connection to the earth and to nature. So what I teach people is, like, when you take a breath, imagine breathing in from deep down into the earth, and your breath is pulling up into the body and is connecting up into the sky. And imagine that you are the connection, you're the axis mundi, as Jung would say, you're the axis mundi, the connection between the sky and the earth. And when you breathe in that way, not only are you doing the diaphragmatic, I'm holding my belly, but you can't see it, but not only are you doing the diaphragmatic belly breath, but you're also now connecting to what's below and what's above. And we talk about philosophy, above and below means so many different things to different people. But that connection allows you to cycle your energy and move in a way that feels really regulating and really calming. So that's one thing that I'll add to the diaphragmatic breath, is adding the up and the down connection from the earth into the sky. The other thing that I tell people is in terms of movement. So, I teach Qigong, and Qigong is a movement meditation practice, and every movement has some sort of quality to it, where we're pulling in energy and we're redirecting it, or we're putting it into the body and we're transmuting it. So one of the things that I tell people in terms of movement that you can always do is, honestly, the block that I just did of bringing in energy and pushing it out, bringing it in and pushing it out. It's very simple. Exactly. It's a very simple thing, this whole notion. And then you tell yourself, okay, well, what is it that I'm working through? Maybe it's my anger, or maybe it's maybe someone says something that's really mean to you. Someone has road rage, and you're driving and someone has road rage. What's happening is the road rage has come toward you. You imagine the energy of the road rage coming toward you, take it in, sense it, push it out. And that literal action not only utilizes the imagination, which utilizes the soul, but it gives a signal to the central nervous system that there's this energy that's coming in and I'm pushing it away. I'm redirecting it out of my system. Because it's important to honor that there's energy there, but it's also important to move the energy out of your being, because that's what helps. That's what helps you have a healthy flow of energy. So those are two things that come to mind.
That's amazing. You're amazing. Seriously, you need to come on my retreats and just do that with people on my retreats with me.
Yes, that'd be beautiful.
Oh my goodness. So I love that. So with the energetic block, you just move the energy out. And so if it's a wall, how do you take the wall down?
Right. So that's a really good question. So if it's a wall, if it's a wall, you have to, again, use the imagination, because you want to switch a wall from being a wall into a barrier or a boundary. So imagine the walls that you have, and imagine just taking a brick out of the wall. And when you take one brick out, feel what it's like to have that energy now come through that one opening and sense it. Does it feel comfortable or uncomfortable to you? If it feels comfortable, maybe take out another brick. If it feels uncomfortable, you can put the brick back, go into meditation, go do something else, and then come back to the exercise. So literally taking down the wall is actually imagining you taking down brick by brick by brick, and that allows it signals to the energy body that it's ready to absorb and accept energy again. And when someone has deep level trauma, the energetic body closes off and it doesn't allow any additional impulses of energy to come in. So after someone's done trauma work with me, what I like to do is then after a certain point, I have them start to take out bricks of the wall. And once the wall starts to kind of fall, I imagine like, it's sort of like Jenga. If you, of course, everyone's played Jenga. So it's sort of like Jenga. You know, you take out one brick and you take out another brick, and eventually it's going to fall. And after doing work, it doesn't happen immediately. It doesn't happen in one afternoon. For some people it does, but usually it doesn't. It's a process. And going through that process, all of a sudden the Jenga tower, the wall that you have, collapses. And you have the strong boundary that you've built that you can now navigate energy through.
Wow. Wow. I think I've said wow like 16 times today. I
love it. Thank you.
Blown away by you make it so simple, Sifu. You really do. You make energy, which, you know, I work with energy. I'm a quantum energy trainer, and I'm like enthralled at every moment that you have. I love what you have to say. We're going to take another quick break. I don't even want to take a break because I just want to keep going. And I could talk to you for so many hours. You have guys, this show has brought so much gold for you. You are a master of energy. You truly are.
Thank you.
You understand the dynamics of flow, and you understand how to move it and collapse time and space. I just honor you so much. We're going to come back and you're going to give us all the details about what you're up to and what you're doing, because I know you're working on a lot of really big things right now, and I want everybody to hear about it. So we will be right back, guys, and stay tuned, because you are going to get so much more gold from Sifu. He's amazing, and we are so grateful that he's here. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being live on the Soul on Fire show with us, and those that are watching the replay. We are here with Soul Warrior, Sifu Love. He is a master with energy, with mind, body, and soul connection. He has given us so much gold, and I can't even go over everything that you have got, but you told us how to literally manipulate energy through a crisis. You showed us how to be in your soul, not your ego. You showed us how to feel all of the senses of life and understand what your intuition was telling you. Gosh, Sifu, I literally want to go on for hours. It was so amazing. So tell us, I know that you're a master at what you do, and I know that the lives that you have changed are so much, and I know you're living a life of service. I know that you're living your best life. You're truly changing lives daily, right? So tell us things that you actually do with your clients you gave us so many amazing takeaways, but what are some things that have transformed your clients' lives?
Yeah. So, I love working with people one-on-one because, again, the work is about the imagination. The imagination is a unique thing. Not everyone's imagination is the same. So I love working with people one-on-one and guiding them through movements and seeing what happens with their imagination, what comes up, what memories, what thoughts, what emotions, and helping them understand a more healthy way of dealing with emotions or whatever those thoughts are. Because again, society and culture has fed us with so much unhealthy concepts that pull us away from what's most true and what's most healthy spiritually. So I love working people one-on-one, and I have a whole range of different forms of Qigong forms. And Qigong is movement meditation that it has a consciousness of what we're talking about in terms of quantum energy and all of that. I have specific forms that are more psychological. So I have forms for trauma, anxiety, grief, for stress, a whole range of those, vulnerability, for example. And then I have spiritual forms, so forms that are for people who are trying to develop something within themselves. So whether it be intuition, or someone wants to work on like past life regression or ancestral healing, there's different forms related to that as well. So there's a whole wide range of forms. Feel free to check out my website.
And I'll link it below, guys, as well.
Thank you. So feel free to check out my website and see all of the different forms that I teach, and ask me about them. I'm happy to show you the forms so you have the experience of them and you feel what it's like to move in that way and have the teachings. And if it feels strong for you, then I love teaching people the forms so they have the practice on their own. Because each time you do a form, something new comes up. Like, for example, the confidence form that I teach, I've done that form maybe 300, 400, 500 times. In actually this year, and this has been a hard year. So I've done the form a lot this year, and each time I do, something new comes up. I understand my anger a little bit differently. I understand why I feel uncomfortable in certain situations. I understand how to feel empowered, even when I feel like I know nothing. When I have that imposter syndrome. So each time you do a form, something new comes up. So
wait, hold on. Talk about imposter syndrome, because before you go even further, that's so important. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that word that you said, it's so important. Let's talk about imposter syndrome and what that looks like, and how some takeaways to get rid of that.
Yeah. So imposter syndrome is, there's so many different ways to define it, but the way that I like to see it is the sense that what you have or what you're contributing, who you are, is not valuable. It's not of essence. It's not of service to whatever's happening. And there's actually 5 different types of imposter syndrome that I can go into, but that's kind of a longer discussion. But, the idea of imposter syndrome is just feeling so distant from the self again. So when you tune back into yourself and you realize, who is it that you are? What have you been able to do in your life? And just that one question of what have you been able to do? What have you been able to accomplish or conquer? That question floods the body with confidence. And you're like, oh, this is a really difficult, let's say, interview that I have to do, and I'm scared. But I've also done this other thing. I've also graduated. I've also graduated from college. I've also helped someone. I pulled someone out of a burning building or something. So we all have these moments in our lives that remind us of how much of a badass we are. And so reminding ourselves of those particular moments helps fill the body with energy of feeling capable, and then we feel more confident. And that's one way to battle imposter syndrome. And that's part of the form. There's one particular form about bringing the memory of how powerful you are, how strong and capable you are, and pulling it up and bringing it into the body. And that particular form is just mind-blowing for people. And I love showing them the form, and then afterwards they're just like, whoa. And they just feel like they can go out and conquer the world. And I'm like, yes, you can. You always could. And now you have the reminder that you can.
I love that so much. And so when you say form, is that a form of energy, or is it an actual form that you have felt like? What's the process that you go through with your clients? Because you work so deeply with individual body movement, but also with energy as well. So
right.
What's the process? Is it an actual form, or is it like the forms of energy? Or
Right. Very good question. So what it is they're forms of movement. So they're sets of movements. So for example, the confidence form has 5 different movements that you go through. And each movement works on a different part of the body in terms of traditional Chinese medicine theory, or spirituality theory, or depth psychology. And so each movement put together creates a form. And the form is this whole system that moves energy in a healthy way. And as you go through the form, you feel where in your body is the energy stuck. And when you feel that stuckness, I tell you like, oh, these are some possible interpretations of it, or I guide you into understanding intuitively what that stuckness means, which is, I think, really powerful for people to be able to do. So I love going with people one-on-one, teaching them the forms, watching them do the forms, correct their body posture, and seeing how that shifts their energy and their ability to tune into what's going on with them. So in addition to the forms, I have a 3-month program that I'm running called Mythic, and I accept new people at the beginning of each month. And that's a really deep dive into your own authentic self. And I teach you movements and philosophies to help you uncover what's truly within who you are. I teach you how to push away all of what's happening in culture and how to understand it to help you feed a stronger connection to your own soul. So I have that, and then I have regular group classes. You can check out my website for the times and dates of that. And that's what I do. I also, just to very quickly say, I am doing some summer solstice work because the solstice is this weekend, and to help people literally put their bodies in the position in which they're ready for summer. And I'll explain what that means in the class, but it's this whole idea that we do all this work to get our bodies ready. This like hot girl summer thing. We do this work to get our bodies ready. Right. So we have this summer body, right? And we do all this work for that. But people don't do the work for the mind, or people don't do the work for the soul. So you put in hours at the gym to look good and feel and look beautiful, but do you feel beautiful? Maybe you do temporarily, but like what's the mind and the soul work you're doing to align this beautiful body that you have? And so I'll be talking about that during the workshops that I have this weekend. So
it's the workshops we can find at it's healingkungfu.com. I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you that right now the beam of light over your head is like a halo. Literally, you look like an angel is coming through because you are.
It's like chasing me. I'm like, ooh, hello, light. Yes.
I know it's pouring through you. So talk about maybe some transformations that you have done with some of your clients and what that like going from point A to point Z and how their lives have changed just a little bit or tremendously.
Yeah. So there's a number of things that come to mind. One particular person that I'll talk about had really, really bad anxiety to the point where they felt like they struggled to literally leave their house. Like leaving the house was really stressful for them because they were also an empath, or they are an empath, so that they tune in and they pick up on so much energy. So it was a lot for them to go outside. And so through learning the form that I taught them the anxiety form. They got so much more in touch with themselves, and now they feel empowered. And they're planning a live performance in Central Park. And I'm like, okay, so you went from being scared to go outside, and now you're putting on a live performance where you're going to be in front of people at Central Park. And I'm like, okay, this is progress. This is beautiful. So that's one particular example, and then there's another person who wanted to really connect with their past lives. So I taught them the past life form, and they wanted that because they heard from someone else that in their past life they were raped, and in another one they were like murdered or something. So they were uncomfortable with that information, and they didn't know what to do with it. So I taught them the form, and that's a longer form and takes a lot of detailed work and practice. And through that, they actually reconnected with their past lives, and they realized the truth of the past lives. The person who gave them a reading gave them false information because they wanted the person to return and give them more money. So they were able to tune into their past lives, realize a lot more about themselves, and pull that information into their own being. And now they feel empowered, and they're actually becoming a past life regressionist, because of the form and what they've taken away. So it's beautiful for me to see how someone comes in with something that they're worried about, or they're struggling with, or they want to understand. And, after working with me, after having the forums and practicing them, they're flourishing. They're doing things that they never thought they would do before. Their soul is on fire, let's say. And then they feel alive to do whatever it is their soul is calling for them to do. And so it's really, really powerful work. And I love doing it. I just love doing it. I'm thinking about some of the people who have learned the manifestation form and their ability to literally manifest a partner, to manifest a job, to manifest a car, like literally to see their manifestations come true. I'm like, yes, you're magical. You've always been. This form is just a reminder of how you're magical. And the form is a way for you to tap into your magic.
This is such beautiful work, and I honor you so, so much because you are truly connecting the mind, body, soul, spirit, and inner energies together. You're coming from such a place of light. You're bringing and teaching people toolkits. You're giving them a toolkit to walk away when they're done with you. They understand how to work with their own energies, right? That's tremendous. And their emotional body. That is so beautiful and such a gift to this world. Thank you for all you're doing. And you're just, everything at Noelle Agape Global is here to change humanity, and you are doing your part for sure. So if I could ask you the question of how do you set your soul on fire, how do you do that?
I mean, my first thought is qigong. It's the movement meditation. Every time I go into practice, like I feel my soul is speaking to me, and my soul sometimes yells at me, like, "Go do this now." And I stop the form, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gone. I'm going. I'm going." And so for me, like the practice is a way to tune so closely into the soul. And when you finish a practice, it's very hard to do things that are not soul aligned. So a lot of the times people will come to my group classes and they'll have plans of things to do afterwards. And once they finish the group class, they're like, nah, I actually don't want to go to dinner with this person, or actually, I don't want to have this conversation. So it's I would say the forms are a beautiful way to tune into the soul, and you feel your soul on fire, and that feels good. We've all felt it at some point, and to be able to for me to go into practice and feel it every time I practice is beautiful. And I'm so grateful to all of my teachers and to my own sensitivity for me to be able to be here.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. One last takeaway for everyone with your amazing gift of magic and toolbox that you have been giving us so much gold and so much nuggets through this entire interview. So one last takeaway for all of our viewers.
Yes. One quick takeaway, something I haven't said yet, is nature. Go into nature and look for examples of what's going on with you in nature, and see how nature is responding to that particular thing. If you're feeling lost, if you're feeling like, you're in the clouds, go outside and look and find a tree that looks like it's lost, that looks like it somehow grew. Some trees are beautiful. Trees know, like some trees are trying to grow, and when the sunlight's blocked, they know how to pivot and twist themselves so then they can get back into the sun and keep on growing. So the tidbit of advice I give people is whenever you're experiencing something, go out into nature and see how nature is responding to that particular challenge, and see how you might respond in a similar way. It's funny, the sun is like beaming down as I'm saying this. So hello, sun.
Oh my gosh, well, you are amazing. You are magical. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have brought so much gold to our viewers today. We're so grateful for having you on. And guys, go watch this 50 times if you have to. He's
rewatch.
Much gold. Thank you, Sifu, for being here. We have a long journey of work to do together. I think we've just created amazing collaboration for sure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for watching.
Wow, what a powerful show. Oh my goodness, he was amazing. I can't even believe the tidbits in just 1 hour that he gave you to take away. He works with your mind, your body, your soul, and your spirit. It was so amazing to have him on here. What an incredible, incredible gift he is to the world. Guys, please, 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 if you like this video and it resonated with you, like it, share it, and subscribe subscribe to all of the channels, but send it to your friends. We are here to change humanity. We are here to empower you. We are here to get you to the greatest version of yourself. And you are more powerful than you will ever know in your life. Your inner world, it will always, always, always reflect your outer world, and your reality can be changed. You can change your reality. Your thoughts become patterns, and your patterns become beliefs, and your beliefs become your reality. If you take the initiative to change your life, you can do anything, you can have anything, and you can set your soul on fire, guys. If you want to go deeper, please, please, please reach out to Sifu. He is amazing and beautiful. If you want to even go even deeper, join us on our Soul on Fire retreats, where we're going to Tulum in August, and we can change your life. Regardless of whatever you do, there is so much information out there for you to be a better version of yourself. You are more powerful than you will ever know. Everything, everything, everything that you ever want is inside of you. I promise you guys, just say yes to you and start taking initiative every single day to making better choices with your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit. At every moment that you make a better choice, your soul will say yes, and set your soul on fire and ignite that passion within. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video.